Welcome to Accreditation Made Easy, the podcast that takes the stress out of accreditation. I am your host, Areaka Jewell, and in each episode, we'll deliver actionable tips, expert insights, and practical strategies to help streamline the process. And of course, make your work life a little easier. Now, whether you're tackling policies, preparing for assessments, or just looking for ways to stay ahead, we've got you covered. Let's simplify accreditation, one step at a time. Hey friends, welcome back to another episode of Accreditation Made Easy. I am your host, Areaka Jewell. Today we're talking about something that every team leader eventually has to do, but nobody really talks about it very often. The final report. Now, if you've ever served as a team leader, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You know, the assessment's over, the assessors have gone home, everyone else gets to move on to the next thing in their life, and there you are. You're staring at a final report that needs to be completed and probably submitted within a certain time frame. I know here in Florida, it's 7 days after the assessment. Now, don't get me wrong. Writing the final report is important. It's the official record of the assessment. It's what documents what happened, what was reviewed, who participated, and ultimately the team's findings. But over the years, I've actually noticed something. Some team leaders make this process much harder than it needs to be. And I'm a big believer in working smarter, not harder. So today I want to share just a few things that I've learned from writing final reports, reviewing final reports, and then learning from the edits that come back afterwards. Because yes, those edits are actually one of the best learning tools available. But we'll come back to that in a minute. So let's start with the biggest mistake that I see. Waiting until the assessment is over before you start gathering information. Think about it. Everything that goes into the final report, the agency information, the assessment dates, name of assessors, maybe the exemplary project or program, that information, maybe a list of not applicable standards, any taken for exemption, plus add in the notes from the assessors about who they interviewed and the observations that they made. Most of that information already exists somewhere. So why wait until you get back home to try to remember where everything came from? Instead, start collecting those pieces throughout the assessment. Grab the agency profile, maybe from the pre-read packet. If it's not in the pre-read packet, get a copy of the exemplary program information. Also, ask the accreditation manager for any reports that show their not applicable standards and their exemptions. Don't forget to save the assessment announcement letter. That can have information as well. So start building your report while the information is fresh. Because of course, your future self will thank you. Another strategy that I highly recommend is asking the other assessors to provide you their notes in the same format that's required for the final report. Now, not everyone's familiar with that format. That's okay. Send them a sample or just point out the example that's in the pre-read packet and give them framework. The closer their notes are to the final report format, the less time you'll spend rewriting everything later. Trust me, I've gotten notes in all different kinds of fonts, size, and you can't really just do copy paste. The other part is if you don't tell them to write in third person and they write everything in first person, you're having to go back and make edits to literally all of their notes. And trust me, when you're staring at a deadline, every little bit helps. Now here's another one. Verify the names, ranks, and the titles before you leave the agency. I know it sounds obvious, but we've all been there. We want to get home, and you're there writing the report, and suddenly you're wondering, was it Lieutenant Smith or Captain Smith? Did I spell that name correctly? Was that person the training sergeant or training coordinator? Those little details can take way more time to fix afterwards than to do while you're still on site. Now, let's talk about one of my favorite, all-time favorite little time-saving tricks, non-compliance standards. Now, I don't know about you, but if your accrediting office wants you to include the actual text from the standard itself before you go into what is not in compliance, you've probably just tried to copy and paste it directly from inside the standard in PowerDMS. If you've done that, then you've also noticed that it brings over all kinds of other extra formatting, attachment counts, attachment highlights, the number of proofs required, whatever. Instead, try this. Open it up in Print Preview. There's a little print button that says print. Click on that. And from that Print Preview, copy it and then paste that into your final report as plain text. Do like right click, paste as plain text, or keep text only, whatever the option is. It's so much cleaner and faster, and it's going to require less cleanup later. Now, let's get to the biggest lesson I've learned over the years. And honestly, this is the reason I wanted to record this episode. Every final report that comes back from the accreditation office, look at it as a learning opportunity. Think about that. When your report goes through their workflow, changes probably get made. Usually they're not major changes. Most of the time they're things like grammar, formatting, wording, maybe style preferences. They're really just small adjustments that make the report more consistent. For a long time, I think many team leaders, including myself, simply just accepted those as edits and moved on. The report was approved, mission accomplished. But then I realized something. The accreditation office was literally showing me how they preferred the report to be written. That's valuable information. So now, whenever I have the opportunity, I actually go through and I review the edits. And if your accrediting body uses PowerDMS like here in Florida and they put it inside a workflow, you can use the compare to start a workflow feature and literally see every change that was made during the review process. And when you start looking at multiple reports over time, patterns emerge. You start seeing preferred wording, preferred formatting, preferred styles. You begin learning what reviewers are looking for. I actually saved the previous report either from inside PowerDMS or when they email it to me, and I pay attention to those corrections, not because I enjoy reading edits, because obviously I don't. Nobody does, but because I don't want to keep making the same mistakes. Every edited report makes the next report a little bit easier, a little bit cleaner, a little better, and eventually those small improvements add up. So, if there's one thing I hope that you take away from today's episode, it's this. Don't just submit final reports. Learn from them. The goal isn't simply getting the report turned in. The goal is becoming a better team leader every time you write one. Now, as always, I've included a companion document that goes right in hand with this podcast today, and I'll include a link to it in the show notes. Now, if you're not already signed up for my free helpful tips and resources, be sure to check out the link in the show notes or head over to www.accreditationacademy.net/sign up to get started. And if you found this episode helpful, please consider sharing it with another assessor, team leader, accreditation manager, whoever you think might benefit from it too. All right, friends, until next time, let's keep making accreditation easy, one step at a time.